Well, Nicky Morgan is still with me, joined again by John McDonnell, and tax credit remains the issue of the day. John, you said at one point you felt physically furious sometimes when you saw Conservatives like George Osborne with these kind of policies. Here you have Nicky Morgan beside you, roundly defending tax credits.
I said it about MPs in general, actually.
Yeah.
I said, look, we are very well paid, and for us to be talking about cuts to some of the poorest, but also middle and low earners, is just unacceptable. Now, Nicky, I think, is going to be one of my allies behind the scene, because she knows that the school teaching assistants, for example, they're going to lose £1,300, £1,800, some of them. School secretaries, £2,000. Behind the scenes, Nicky's going to be one of my allies that convinces George to turn on this issue.
A basilisk face there, Education Secretary.
And there's many more of you, I know.
I expect to be called many things, but I'm not sure one of your allies on this. But I just wanted to ask you, I mean, I think in 2013 you wrote an article in which you said that tax credits were basically subsidising bad employers.
Yeah,
and so I think you agree that tax credits have to be tackled.
No, but that's why I agree with George Osborne in terms of lifting the minimum wage, but he's not lifted enough to have a real living wage. But the problem with this is his lifting of the minimum wage, there's a transition period where people will lose out. That's why the Lords are sending it back to you to say, sort out the transition period.
But they're not going to send it back. If they follow the motions tomorrow, then actually they will kill
they'll put it back to the government to say, no, it isn't unprecedented.
You haven't identified where the 4.4 billion is going to come from.
It isn't unprecedented. That's the first thing. Secondly, they're simply saying, think again about this, and we'll help you think again if you want.
If they kill it off
then
tomorrow.
Thirdly, we will say to you, stop cutting the taxes for the rich and make sure you use that money to protect people, middle and low earners and the poorest on the tax credits. That's all we're asking.
You must accept, look, you look at the budget red book, you can see that actually the richest are paying the most in terms of rebuilding our economy, which is very much needed
You're cutting inheritance tax. You've cut the tax for millionaires. You're also cutting corporations.
People who have been in housing in London. Look, you must accept that
I understand that I want to see tax cuts in the end, but when the economy can afford it, and I do not want it on the back of
This is one of those interviews where I could just amble off for a cup of coffee and a breakfast and come back at the end.
Yeah.
But I have to say to you, I mean, you're sounding so moderate and so gentle, John. I mean, you did say you used to want to get physical with these people. You have changed, haven't you?
Well, no, I get angry still.
You do?
I get very angry still. But what I'm trying to do
is keep it calm.
Well, just also, I've never allowed my politics to become personal. This is always politics and anything else. But I think there are people within the Conservative Party, and I think Nicky secretly as well, who side with us. And if we can convince George to change, I've said to him, look, as I've said earlier, if you change, we'll not make political hay out of this. We just want what's best for the country and for people.
But if he does change, that would be a massive, massive blow to his economic policy. It would be effectively the end of his chancellorship.
But the Prime Minister, to be very clear, the policy isn't changing. You have to accept, John, that it must be right that people keep more of the money that they earn.
Yes,
isn't recycled through the system.
But I think employers should pay more. I think employers should pay more, a proper living wage.
And you wanted the living wage mandatory. That's what's coming in.
But no, it isn't. It isn't a living wage. That's the first thing. But also, there's this transition period where people lose out.
We are running out of time, but I would say that everyone who's watching doesn't actually need to sit through the Commons or the Lords debates anymore on this. You have had an absolute pitch-perfect, miniaturised version of the debate. Thank you both very much.